Hi guys, I'm Jess and welcome to the Riverdale Review. So this week's episode, chapter 26, The Telltale Heart, opens with the continuation of the cliffhanger that last week's episode left us on.
What happened? No. Don't come any closer. Don't touch anything.
Alice is frantically cleaning up the blood and Betty's about to call 911 when Alice says, No, don't do that. We're going to deal with this ourselves. That's what we do. So Betty point blank asks her mom if this was done in self-defense. And Alice kind of doesn't answer straight away. She's still frantically cleaning the blood, and I guess that could be used as an excuse for why she didn't answer the question. But then when Betty asks again, Alice is like, yes, it was done in self-defense. As you would recall from last week's episode as well, Hal has moved out. He gave the family an ultimatum. It was either him or Chick, and they chose Chick. Or rather, Hal chose to remove himself from the situation. So during the very first tense moments of this episode, Hal chooses to place a phone call to Betty saying that he needs to come by the house to pick up some toiletries. So together they clean up the body, they hide all of the evidence of the crime, and wait for Hal to arrive. I think under normal circumstances, I would have expected the Coopers to involve the police, but it's made very clear in these opening moments that they fully intend on covering up this crime. So together, Betty and Alice dispose of the body. They wrap him in a rug that's in their living room and take him to this kind of storm drain. Next day, as far as Alice is concerned, everything is back to normal. Meanwhile, Betty is losing her mind. She's freaking out. She started the action of clenching her fists again, which we have seen her do in earlier episodes. She's having nightmares. She can't sleep. She's a mess. We don't know any circumstances about this murder yet. The only thing that we do know is that this guy was a drug dealer. We later see a conversation between Penelope Blossom and Hal. It looks like for some time now, Hal has been confiding, and I use that term very loosely, in Penelope Blossom. Cheryl makes an appearance in this episode and comments to her mother and to Hal about, the amount of times that they're seeing one another. Penelope says that this is something different with Hal, that, there's something more in it for her. I don't know whether I believe that or whether Penelope's using that as an excuse to keep her daughter quiet about things. Regardless, when Cheryl talks to Hal, she reassures Hal that she won't be telling Betty. But we do see her reveal the information later on after she discusses the relationship with her mom, and obviously her mom doesn't give her the information that she wants or the answers that she wants. So Cheryl approaches Betty, who is a nervous wreck throughout this whole episode. And Betty kind of says, look, I'm busy right now, and my dad's moved out. And Cheryl interjects and says, this is actually about your dad. This information comes in really useful later on in the episode when Betty returns to her house to find Hal harassing Chick. You can see the look of surprise in Hal's face when he sees that his daughter has this information and she's using it against him. Now, another really interesting thing that happens in this situation is that Hal references Chick as Betty's brother. At no point since Chick's arrival has Hal ever said, my son. It's always your son to Alice or your brother to Betty. And again, I think that this is further confirmation that Hal knows that Chick is not his biological son. As I mentioned earlier, Betty is a complete mess this episode. The disposing of this body has really messed with her emotional state. So Betty confides in Jughead, and together they get rid of the car that is sitting outside of the Cooper's residence that they haven't realized belonged to the guy coming to look for Chick. But there is still the body to get rid of. Betty and Jughead confide in FP, who comes to Alice's aid and disposes of the body properly.
Thank you, FP. I'm sorry for involving Betty and that she pulled Jughead into this.
So Veronica's motivation has been something that has really puzzled me. I've gone back and forth about whether I think she's a good person or she's just like her parents. I kind of wasn't clear on why it was that she was working with her parents. You know, was it to warn people that were associated with their parents' mind games of any impending doom coming? Or was it purely because she wants to be exactly like them? Now, this episode for me really redeemed her as a character. You see her go to Mayor McCoy and advise her that her parents are planning to out her affair with Sheriff Keller. So Veronica goes to Mayor McCoy and tells her that her parents are planning to expose the affair and discredit her. Veronica kind of encourages Mayor McCoy to step down, which she does. This throws a little spanner in the works for the lodges, but I am sure they will still work out a way to come back around. Agent Adams is back again this episode, and he is out for blood. His harassment of Archie and his demands of Archie have gone beyond legal and are completely ridiculous.
Honestly, it seemed like...
What?
Like they were friends.
A friend, Archie, doesn't force you down to your knees and shoot you in the back of the head with a Glock 34.
When Archie refuses to give Agent Adams the information he wants, Agent Adams goes after Archie's dad. We see Archie go to Hiram and expose everything that Agent Adams has asked him to do.
I do. So why are you telling me any of this? Because I like you, Mr. Lodge. And I love your daughter, and I think Agent Adams is a lot more dangerous than you are at this point.
Hiram tells Archie that everything's going to be fine and thanks him for coming to him and entrusting this information. Now, I, as the viewer, immediately thought we would see Archie leave the office, Hiram pick up the phone and make another one of those very secretive phone calls. But we're left to wait and wonder. Archie's at home and he gets a knock at the door, and it is the lodge's driver. He explains that the lodges want to see him, and he goes willingly. Now, I don't know about you, but that's never a good thing. If a driver is going to arrive in the middle of the night, especially in Riverdale, and say that the lodges needed to speak to me, I'd be pretty worried, especially since I had just told them all this information. But alas, Archie, being the good boy that he is, goes along with the driver. Cut to this dramatic cliff face. The waves are crashing underneath. It's the perfect place to meet a mob boss. But Archie and us as the viewers are absolutely gobsmacked when we see Hermione Lodge.
Thank you, Andre. Give us a moment.
This reveal left my jaw on the floor. This was a huge reveal that none of us, I think, saw coming.
Welcome to the family, Archie.
Thanks for joining me on another episode of the Riverdale Review. Be sure to like this video, leave any feedback, comments or suggestions in the box below, and hit that big old subscribe button.